Chiklis.
The thematic question of The Shield was, what are we willing to accept from law enforcement in post 9/11 America to keep us safe?
If they brought Vic back, would you do him?
It would depend on the circumstances. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to a brilliant concept.
What do you make of the real election?
Considering the dialogue, what makes people so repulsed by Hillary Clinton that they would vote for Trump over her?
Plus, influence. Available now anywhere you can get music.
What a dream come true. I love that I've been hearing Larry King.
It's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. He's back for a second shot. He's Michael Chiklis, the actor, producer, director, and musician. His second appearance on Larry King Now. Michael has won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for his role as Vic Mackey on the hit FX series The Shield. He's also known, of course, for past parts like Tony Scully on ABC's The Commish and The Thing in the Fantastic Four movies. More recently, Michael has starred in shows like American Horror Story and Vegas, and now he's taken his talents to Gotham, currently in its third season on Fox. To top it all off, he's just released his first ever solo rock album. Here you see it, called Influence. You sing?
I do.
Why did we not know this?
Well, I'm a person who doesn't do things unless I can do them, well and correctly. And I've just never had the opportunity to get into the studio and dedicate the time to writing the material and recording an album properly. I've been so busy with my acting career, happily, and also, there's that thing about raising children. You want to kind of be there and having a wife and family. And something had to sort of, take a second, take a back seat. And music I could always play at home. And I didn't need to pursue it professionally necessarily to still enjoy it. So for many, many years, I just did it that way. I enjoyed it privately. I played out on gigs with friends of mine in different venues. But now, in 2010, I'll just say the origin of what happened. In 2010, my best friend from home, a guy named Bob Pascarella, called me. And he said, Chick, we used to make music our whole lives together as kids, and we're getting old. So it's now or never. Let's make some music. I said, that's great, Bobby, but you live in Boston and I live in Los Angeles. How are we going to do this? And he said, technology now has leapt forward so that I can set up a room in your house and you can write things and record them, send them to me via file sharing, and I can work on them, send them back, and the two of us can put together music in this way. So I was like, okay, I'm down with that. Turns out the very first song that we did ended up on the soundtrack of a movie I did in 2010 called High School with Adrian Brody and Colin Hanks. And when that happened, then all of a sudden I was asked to host the 4th of July at the Esplanade with the Boston Pops. And our second song that we wrote, I sang with the Boston Pops live in front of 1 million people. So now we're two guys with two songs that we weren't even in the same room when we recorded them. Now all of a sudden there's people asking for us to play out live, and I'm like, I don't even have a band,
And what does he do, Bob?
Bob is a director. He does a lot of work for PBS in Boston and a lot of different. He's on a production company.
So
right
what took so long to do? Oh, you were acting and family. And...
Yeah, first, when I was in a band with Bob at the time back in New York when I was, 23 years old, and we were gigging, and but I was also doing off-Broadway theater and everything. And then I got the role of John Belushi in the film Wired, in which I sing. I sing the Blues Brothers stuff in that.
Didn't see it.
Well, no one else did. Don't worry about it. You weren't the only one. In any case, once I did Wired, that led to one thing after another. Next thing you know, I'm on the commish, and 1 hour drama. That's your life's over. I mean, when you're the first lead of 1 hour drama, you have literally no time to do anything else. I got married during that period. I had my first child during that period. Huge changes, incredibly time consuming. Next thing you know, it's 25 years went by.
This is all original music? You wrote them all?
9 out of 11 of them. We did one cover tune. I wanted to do one cover, and we ended up deciding to do Fame by David Bowie and John Lennon. Mainly because, this is my influences growing up. I was heavily influenced.
Music that influenced you.
That's right. That's right. And, I grew up during the 70s in that incredible rock and roll era, and particularly the British rockers of the 70s heavily influenced me. Queen, Yes, Genesis, The Police, Van Halen. A lot of those guys really influenced me when I was when I was a little guy, when I was high school and stuff.
There's a song in the album called My Gun. you sing about a deranged man who is thinking about going on a killing spree.
Yeah.
Is this an anti-gun song?
See, this is what bothers me about where we are politically in the world right now. It's either or. I would love to see. No, but that's fine. But I'm just saying the nuance has to be brought into the political arena again. And I am not anti-gun. I'm just anti being stupid with regard to guns. You need to have great legislation. You know, you have to prevent, you know, the wrong people from getting guns. So I think that there's a middle ground between those two things. I grew up in a hunting tradition. My father was a hunter. I'm just anti getting guns in the wrong hands. So let's be smart about this.
Isn't it too easy to get a gun?
It's just too easy to get a gun. I'm sorry. You know, it should be as hard at least to get a gun as it is to get a driver's license. So it just, you know, it's just common sense.
Where is rock in the musical circle now? Hip hop is so prevalent in the world.
Well, that's another one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because I have heard so little rock and roll that's influenced by the bands of this period. You've got guys like Harry Connick Jr., for example, does stuff from the Sinatra era, you know, and Michael Bublé, right? You got guys representing every.
Rock.
No. What I'm saying is you get guys from every era, you know, that are influenced by these different genres. But I've really heard next to no one doing stuff from this era. And it's not like it's taking the stuff from that era into today. It's not a copy or a throwback. It's just. It's familiar and reminiscent of that, but I've brought it into this decade, especially in terms of the recording technique.
What is rock Bill Haley and the Comets? Is it Elvis Presley?
Well, that's different to different people. That's the original rock. Original rock and roll is the 50s rock and roll. Right. That's when rock was born. Now, then it got into the 60s, and a lot of those singer-songwriter folk singers, and obviously the Paul Simons of the world, that were much more socially conscious. And then it moved into the 70s with Led Zeppelin and the British rock invasion that was led by the Beatles.
If this takes off and everything happens, would you like to do tours? And
I would love to tour. I'm doing my first live show, as a matter of fact, at the Canyon Club in Los Angeles on November 19th.
My birthday.
Oh, no kidding.
I'll come.
I love that. I would love to have you. Absolutely.
First live show.
That's my first live show, and I've got Scott Healy, who's the band leader and keyboard player for Conan O'Brien's band, and their brass section are coming to back me up. It's a 10-piece band.
You going to sing on Conan?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
When we return, the third season of Gotham is upon us. We'll hear all about it and look back at Michael's stint on American Horror Story. Don't go away. Guest is the extraordinarily talented Michael Chiklis, his first of what will be many albums, Influence. Available now anywhere you can get music.
What a dream come true. I love that I mean, hearing Larry King introduce Mike.
The Canyon Club in L.A., November 19th. You play a police captain.
Gotham, yeah.
In Gotham. How'd that come about?
Well, the showrunner, Bruno Heller, called me and asked to sit with me. And quite frankly, if it was just a police captain, I would have passed on it. But now in the third season, we're getting into what we discussed when I first joined the show, which is where the character would go, what he would evolve into. And I don't want to spoil everything, but last night on the show, people saw that I was infected by this literally bad blood that will have a profound effect on my character, let's put it that way.
So about real blood, you mean blood?
Yes, blood from a dead victim I'm infected by, and it will change me. It's, you know, remember, we're talking about DC Comics here. You know, these are comic book characters. It's very arch. It's very over the top. It's a huge genre. It's such a huge world, as you know.
You like authority roles?
You know, I don't really think
well,
of it.
You look like an authority.
I guess that's, you know, I'm painted that way, I guess. So a lot of people sort of gravitate to putting me in those positions.
You ever want to do something out of that wheelhouse?
Love to. I would love to play just a guy, just a person, you know, that has hopes, dreams.
Have you done theater?
Tons of theater, but it's been a long time.
Oh, you'd be good in Death of a Salesman.
Willie Loman is one of my...
Wouldn't you like to do that?
Oh, my God. You know what? From your mouth to God's ears, Larry, let's do that. Let's get that done in Broadway. I'd love to.
Concerning Gotham, your cast member, Robin Lloyd Taylor, said, our show is like any comic book in that the stories are written to reflect the times in which we live. Comic books are written with that idea in mind, the social climate. So our show is reflecting that. So now you've got an election going on. What do you make of the real election?
Well, look, I don't want to spend more than a minute on this because it is so saturated all of our lives, and it's been, yeah, I'm exhausted by it, and it's just been so sad, the reducing of our political discourse to what it's become. Suffice to say, look, you know, I've never been a political person publicly. I follow politics. I vote. I exercise my liberties, but I've never been a public person. And I don't like putting that on people. And plus, I want people to be able to watch me in any character, and believe it. Having said that, I think the thing that confounds me is considering the dialogue. What makes people so repulsed by Hillary Clinton that they would vote for Trump over her? That's confounding to me. I can't imagine.
Why do people hate her?
I can't understand it.
Switching gears, the last time you were on you did one season on the hit series American Horror Story. Are you going to go back? You want to do it again?
Probably not. I mean, that was one of the darkest years of my career. I think it's one thing to do a horror film in the context of like 2 months or something like that, but to live in that for 6 months, it just became, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an empathetic person and I just sometimes start to take things on, but it was so dark and it was so nasty.
What about Ryan Murphy? You like working with him?
Oh, he's terrific. I mean, I've known Ryan for a long time.
And he likes to bring his actors back.
Yeah. I mean, if he asked me, I would absolutely consider it.
You weren't happy doing it?
It wasn't about that. I loved the cast. I had a great time with some of the greatest women in the acting world on that show. And I loved them all. I really did. But it was such a dark place to go to every day.
Really? Even just acting is acting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm usually able to shed things pretty easily. I mean, I played Vic Mackey, and that was very dark. And I was able to somehow just, shake that off and walk away from it. But in the case of American Horror Story, I had a harder time with it. It was just so dark. It was just, I just felt like, I always felt creeped out.
Did you watch the finished product?
No, I have to tell you, for the first time in my career, I watched the first few, and then I just was like, I don't know why. I just didn't want to go.
Did you discuss it with the director? Did you tell him about your feelings?
Nope. No.
You were an actor. You were.
Yeah, I went and did my job, to the best of my ability, and I did everything that I could to represent what was supposed to be represented, but it didn't mean I needed to live in it.
Michael's album is Influence. Does Michael miss his days on The Shield? And could we ever see the return of Vic Mackey? Stay with us. Michael Chiklis' first, we hope will be many albums. Influence is available now. What are you better known for, The Commish or The Shield?
Living in my own skin, it's probably 50-50.
You won an Emmy for The Shield.
I did.
What made that show stand out from, there's so many police dramas?
But it was a game changer, it really was. It was the first, first of all, that was the beginning of basic cable, because there were no other basic cable shows, really, scripted series. And it was something that was incredibly bold and groundbreaking, centering a show around an anti-hero, a cop who has, in the first episode, murdered a fellow cop. Nothing like that had ever been dealt with. And the fact that first act, that original sin, if you will, stretches through the entire 7 years of the series in terms of its consequence.
7 years?
Yeah.
Did you like him, Vic Mackey?
Oh, wow, what a question. Let me put it this way, I loved playing him.
Why do fans like him?
Well, that I think, again, I find myself confounded about that because, it seemed pretty clear what we were, we were dealing in shades of gray, obviously. And the thematic question of The Shield was, what are we willing to accept from law enforcement in post 9/11 America to keep us safe? Very relevant term.
It could come back, couldn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely. It certainly could. Especially with what's happened over the last couple of years with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, and the kind of controversy that we're seeing. So I personally thought that, even though we were dealing in shades of gray, I wanted to play a person that was very, very complex, and that it isn't oftentimes just cut and dry, and it is incredibly difficult on police officers in stressful situations. But Tony Shembry, who was the real man that I played in The Commish. Let's talk about the antithesis of The Shield. His catchphrase was, I like my guys to think and talk before they shoot and hit. So he was a white-hatted, no ambiguity or ambivalence. It was very, very clear that he believed in neighborhood policing, in you know, and dealing with people on an individual basis and really having a connection.
The opposite of Vic.
The opposite of Vic. And Vic is kind of the result of the modern era where everything's cold and impersonal. And, you know, I mean, I could literally spend days on this.
If they brought Vic back, would you do him?
It would depend on the circumstances. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to a brilliant concept.
Does The Shield show anywhere?
I believe it does. You can either get it through iTunes if you're on Apple
But it's
TV.
not on any syndicated run?
I think it's only Hulu is playing it right now on Amazon Prime. That's it, yeah.
We play a little game of If You Only Knew. I'll just throw some.
Okay.
What was your funniest fan encounter?
The one that just leaps into my mind is I was walking across the street in New York, and this woman just went, "Oh my God!" And she threw her arms around me and hugged me in the middle of like 7th Avenue in Manhattan and went, "You're Frasier!" And I just went, "No, I'm not Frasier." Actually, I didn't say anything. I just hugged her and said, "Well, thank you very much," and kept going. But
you have a secret talent? Influence is out now?
Aside from music and I would say that would be my
best piece of advice you ever got.
You know, I always think of my father, who was here the last time you got to meet my dad. And, you know, he was filled with what I call catchphrase philosophy. He would say these things. And he said to me once, "Try everything, kid." I did. Meaning, like, experience. Go and look into things. Be curious.
Has he passed?
No, he's not. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Artists we'd be surprised to hear you listen to.
I have an incredibly eclectic musical background. I suppose they wouldn't think of me as someone who listens to, you know, classical music or hip hop. Probably they probably wouldn't think of me as a hip hop guy, but I listen to some of that as well.
What's the biggest risk you ever took?
This right here, right now. Because you know what? When you're an actor and you put out a record in these days, there's a lot of eye rolling and going like, "Oh, here we go," and it's a risk. And you know that there's going to be people who just dismiss it out of hand before even hearing it. And you, as an actor, as an artist of any kind, you have to be courageous and you have to put yourself out there.
What's something that always makes you laugh?
I'll tell you, both my children make me laugh.
If you could take one person to lunch, who would it be?
The president.
Person you'd like to switch places with for a day?
The president.
Last time you cried?
This past spring, when I was the commencement speaker for my daughter's graduation at USC. I actually quoted my father and looked up and saw him in the audience. My father, I've seen him cry 3 times in my life, and that was the 3rd time.
After the break, Michael will take your fan questions. The album is Influence. Don't click away. We're back with Michael Chiklis. His album is Influence. He's on Gotham, and we have some social media questions. Ann Dawson on the Larry King Now blog. If you could collaborate with someone musically, who would it be?
If I have to pick one person, Peter Gabriel.
At Brigand2 on Twitter, did you enjoy your time on Vegas? And
Loved it.
And is there any chance of a reboot?
No. Sadly, there isn't, but I had a great time with Dennis and everybody involved, and I just enjoy that world, and Nick Pileggi, and
great writer.
Great.
Dave Smith on Facebook, what makes you laugh the most on the set of Gotham?
Donald Logue, he's a funny guy. If you haven't interviewed him, you should. Brilliant actor and an amazing guy, and Harvard graduate, and just incredibly smart and insightful, and he makes me laugh.
At Brother Grimace on Twitter, who would the commish vote for in this election?
Hillary Clinton.
Who would the Shield vote for? Trump.
The other guy.
At Trekkie Girl 1 on Twitter, how about a commish reunion TV show or movie?
Unfortunately, that wouldn't be possible without Teresa Saldana, who's passed away, my co-star. And, you know, I just don't think that would be possible without her. I mean, I suppose you could do that, but I don't think I'm interested in doing that without her.
At Mac the Spork on Twitter, what do you think Vic Mackey is up to right now?
We have a concept, actually, Sean Ryan and I. You know, Sean actually came up with a great way forward if anyone did want to do it. And that's for me to know and you guys to find out.
How did the Shield end?
It ended with, I think that's one of the great strokes of genius. We discussed it for 3 years before it ended. You know, because the cliches would have been, you know, top of the world, man, him getting, you know, killed in a blaze of glory, or the cage shuts and he's arrested. Instead, because it was a show about ambiguity, he ends up quite literally in a gray cubicle in a gray suit, having been granted immunity from all of his crimes, but he has lost everything and everyone, and he is a shell of who he was. And it's this sort of purgatory. Genius.
At MX80 Soul Rocker on Twitter, what was it like working with Ray Liotta in the film Pawn?
Well, it was 2 days. So, that whole movie went by in such a blur. We really tried.
What was it about?
It was a robbery gone wrong that turns into a hostage situation. It was one of these things that came up. We had a window to do it. I had an opportunity to produce it under my banner. Listen, I stand by the movie. It works. It's fine. It's just we shot it in 15 days. And, if you know anything about making movies, it's just trying to fit 10 pounds of sand into a 5-pound bag. And wonderful cast, amazing, Forrest Whitaker and Ray Liotta and so many. There's like 9 stars in that show, in that one movie. But it went by in very much a blur.
Like Ray Liotta?
Yeah, Ray's great.
He's a great guy.
He's great. He was terrific.
So, November 19th at the Kenyon Club.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And you will be your first in-person appearance.
That's right, with an incredible band behind me.
If this album takes off and everything goes well, would you like to do a tour?
I think that would be a blast. I'd like to take a chunk of time, whether it's 2-3 months, and do a limited tour. I think that would be great.
What happened to the Red Sox?
I mean, some people are yelling justice with what happened with Tito, a couple of years back. But I think youth. I think there's a lot of young guys that are incredible on that team.
They're going to be terrific.
They're unbelievable, yeah. And it was sad to see Poppy's last game.
Yeah. Michael.
Hey, pleasure, sir.
Love you, baby.
Thanks, man.
Michael Chiklis. Big thanks to Michael. Tune into his show Gotham. It airs Mondays at 8 Eastern on Fox. Also be sure to pick up a copy of Michael's new and first album, Influence. Available right now. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time. On Larry King Now, Emmy-winning actor Michael Chiklis.
The thematic question of The Shield was, what are we willing to accept from law enforcement in post-9/11 America to keep us safe?
If they brought Vic back, would you do him?
It would depend on the circumstances. I wouldn't say no to a brilliant concept.
What do you make of the real election?
Considering the dialogue, what makes people so repulsed by Hillary Clinton that they would vote for Trump over her?
Plus, Influence. Available now anywhere you can get music.
What a dream come true. I love that I've been hearing Larry King.
It's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. He's back for a second shot. He's Michael Chiklis, the actor, producer, director, and musician. His second appearance on Larry King Now. Michael has won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for his role as Vic Mackey on the hit FX series The Shield. He's also known, of course, for past parts like Tony Scully on ABC's The Commish and The Thing in the Fantastic Four movies. More recently, Michael has starred in shows like American Horror Story and Vegas, and now he's taken his talents to Gotham, currently in its 3rd season on Fox. To top it all off, he's just released his first ever solo rock album. Here you see it, called Influence. You sing?
I do.
Why did we not know this?
Well, I'm a person who doesn't do things unless I can do them, well and correctly. And I've just never had the opportunity to get into the studio and dedicate the time to writing the material and recording an album properly. I've been so busy with my acting career, happily, and also, there's that thing about raising children. You want to kind of be there and having a wife and family. And something had to sort of, take a second, take a back seat. And music I could always play at home. And I didn't need to pursue it professionally necessarily to still enjoy it. So for many, many years, I just did it that way. I enjoyed it privately. I played out on gigs with friends of mine in different venues. But now, in 2010, I'll just tell you the origin of what happened. In 2010, my best friend from home, a guy named Bob Pascarella, called me. And he said, Chick, we used to make music our whole lives together as kids, and we're getting old. So it's now or never. Let's make some music. I said, that's great, Bobby, but you live in Boston and I live in Los Angeles. How are we going to do this? And he said, technology now has leapt forward so that I can set up a room in your house and you can write things and record them, send them to me via file sharing, and I can work on them, send them back, and the two of us can put together music in this way. So I was like, okay, I'm down with that. Turns out the very first song that we did ended up on the soundtrack of a movie I did.